Hey there, and welcome to More Than Meets These Guys.
Subdivisions.
This is not your usual episode from the beginning of the Transformers animated series. This will be a sideshow we'll be doing that goes into other interests we may have on an off week or due to holidays or emergencies. It may be something I'm a fan of and Ed doesn't know much about, or vice versa, with Ed sharing something he loves with myself. And welcome, everyone, and we hope you enjoy this like we do. Ed, what you got for this week, man?
I got a lot of things for this week. First of all, I've had a busy day today. I just got home from playing a big game of Warhammer 40,000. I decided to try out a new army I've been working on, and I got completely stomped into the ground. I got completely stomped into the ground today. So I'm in a real bad mood because I'm doing great. No, today we are covering a late 80s anime called Area 88. This is a show that deals with mercenary jet fighter pilots, based on a manga or a manga. You know what? I'm making the call here. I'm just going to say Japanese comics, or just, you know what? I'm just going to say comics from now on. I don't care where they come from. They're still comics. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that from now on. I don't want to be that guy that just slips into an accent for one foreign word and gets back into my normal accent. I don't want to. I don't want to be a CNN reporter and talking about Nicaragua. I don't want to be that guy. So
there was a shop. I remember Glenn's shop, Heroic Images. It was a local comic shop, and there was someone else. Will took it over. He bought it from Glenn, and Glenn moved out of town. And there was he rented the back of the shop out to these this anime group.
I remember that. Yeah.
Every time you walk in the store, they'd scream "Konnichiwa!" and like, please don't do that. That's really disrespectful. That's really annoying.
I did not enjoy that. I do remember that. Yeah, it was pretty awful. Anyway, this is based on a series of comics by Kaoru Shintani that ran from 1979 to 1986 in Japan. Was reprinted by Eclipse Comics in the US from 87 to 89, and was one of, if not the first, Japanese comics to be translated into English and published in English by a publisher, not by like a fan group or anything like that. This also got a sort of English adaptation with the video game UN Squadron, which was had an arcade game and also an SNES game, which I randomly once found in a pool hall while I was sitting out around a pool when I was in high school. Do you have any connection to this property at all?
Man, okay, so this is I was kind of I had a little weebish phase. I mean, I actually got into anime and manga a lot when I was younger, and I really liked. I remember there was I think it was on it might have been Sci-Fi Channel, or I don't know. They ran a like week of anime thing, and just like kind of like really cool storied properties. And so they showed Galaxy Express 39, 999, which was created by the mangaka, which is the a manga artist in Japan. Leiji Matsumoto.
Leiji Matsumoto, yeah.
Yes. Leiji Matsumoto. I love his style. So I saw this cover. I think it was like I think it was a Hollywood Video. There used to be like a Hollywood Video in town. They always carried kind of unusual titles. I always meant to watch this because I really liked Leiji Matsumoto's style. He has very almost like a 70s aesthetic to his drawing.
He is very 70s.
I love it, dude.
He's very 70s because and out there, if you don't know, he also did a really cool thing called Captain Harlock, which is even if you don't know, if you're a dirty punk rocker like me, you will recognize the symbol from Glenn Danzig's T-shirt in the Misfits, which is
actually, else he did though. He did oh gosh, was it Space Battleship Yamato?
Yeah, he did Yamato. That's right. Also known as Star Blazers in the U.S. Well, a pretty early 70s anime that got translated over here, which was one of my favorite pre-Robotech animes, which to this day is still really good. I know you and I have talked about that show a lot in the past. Especially
I love it. They actually did an update of Yamato some years ago. I think like early 2000s, which was fantastic. Same designs.
That's what I heard. I
did a kind of quick look at Kaoru Shintani. Yeah, so he started his work working as a assistant to the space opera mangaka Leiji Matsumoto,
Hmm?
who was, like we already talked about, created Space Battleship Yamato, Captain Harlock, along with Galaxy Express 39. He actually says that he created a Harlock character, so Yataran, as a tribute to Shintani. Yataran.
Star Blazers. It was a Star Blazers character.
Okay, well, he was apparently he was mentioned as in Narlock, but
Maybe it
he
wasn't
made,
Harlock too. I don't know.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
Matsumoto was
he's
praised for
he looks like a really small, like nerdy, like overweight kid, who's yeah, he shows up in them a lot. So yeah, Shintani also created a lot of manga works. I mean, though
Yeah.
Area 88, Cleopatra DC, Desert Rose, and I Dream of a Mimi were only put to animation. So yeah, I haven't watched any of these others either. So
Neither have I. I don't think I've ever seen anything he's done besides this. But and kind of a cool little flip flop though.
yeah,
So he did this jet fighter thing, and eventually Matsumoto would go on to do a thing called the Cockpit. It was a kind of an anthology thing with a lot of like World War II pilots, which I think that was probably inspired a lot by this.
Well,
Yeah.
looking at Yamato or Star Blazers, if you will, and this Cockpit, Matsumoto had a big. I'm assuming because of his age, he had a big influence of World War II.
Yeah, I think so.
The Korean War, obviously, with this, because I'm looking at the jets in this, very Korean War era jets.
But yeah, a lot of Korean War, a lot of Vietnam War. But
the
but
tanks,
yeah. But Matsumoto and Shintani had a really similar style with drawing hair. Also, I don't know if you kind of noticed that they had this kind of blobby kind of side. Yeah, they had a really similar thing with that. But personally, I have a very strong connection to this property, as this is actually my favorite Japanese comic of all time.
That's why you wanted to do it.
Straight up. There's a few others that get close. Lone Wolf and Cub, Sanctuary, Crying Freeman, Dagger of Kamui. Those all come pretty close, but
great, man.
Those are really good. But when I was in middle school, I had a friend that I think he had an older brother or an older cousin or something like that just left him tons of comics. And they just kind of funneled his old comics into this dude Elbert, who was a really cool guy. But he and I would trade comics all the time, and I mean, it was like every week we were trading something or another. But at some point though, he came at me with a stack of Eclipse comics, which I had never heard of, because at that time I didn't know anything outside of Marvel and DC. I had heard of like Charlton comics. I had some old Charlton horror stuff from the 70s at some point, but it was just Marvel and DC and all that other stuff. But yeah, he came at me with a stack of Eclipse, and I was kind of blown away by it. And in this stack, I'm pretty sure that what it was all whoever gave it to him, like that month, just bought every title that Eclipse put out.
Really?
And it was so it was like Airboy and Scout, Tales of Terror, Valkyrie. But the first month there was also Dagger of Kamui, My the Psychic Girl, and Area 88, which were done by an imprint of Eclipse. At the time was called Viz, who went on to be called Viz, who now publish a ton of manga. Of Japanese comics. Sorry, I need to mess that up there. But
actually, I'll tell you one of my favorite properties. We're talking about favorite properties here. This kind of, I guess, I was always kind of talking about a pre-show sort of thing here. I found this in my storage also, and I saved it because I love it so much. This is my big wall art of Blade of the Immortal. Oh, dude. God. Yeah, it's a paper wall art. It's like, you call it poster, but it's all done in like a high grade paper. So that, like I said, I had a huge thing where I was a big fan of manga, but I had to find certain manga that I like. I love the Captain Harlock style, the Galaxy Express style, that style. So with this, I was immediately drawn to this, but also Lone Wolf and Cub. I don't really get into a lot of the traditional, or I guess the popularized style of, I guess big boob anime girls, and that's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like throwaway to me. And other people had different opinions. That's fine, but I wanted something with a very realistic, stylized feel. Blade of the Immortals like that for me, but also this, which we're just not realistic so much, but it doesn't have an over curvy style. the people in this are walking around are very, they look lean, they look lithe, they look like they have a certain feel to them that you don't get in another anime, which is why I really appreciated the style in this.
Well, to add on to that, there's one of the things that really grabbed me with this comic, though, is like you said it's not realistic. I think it is because there's a lot of like loving attention to detail when it comes to incidental things like radios and cameras and random technology. I don't know how much of that you see in the show, but in the comics, there's a lot of zoom ins of like a camera where this guy he would just sit and just like painstakingly detail this camera down to the lens and everything or whatever. But a lot of those things are, even though the characters are simplified, they have really expressive, like Japanese style faces. But see, it was like you were saying with the normal style. I think that anime and manga, anime and Japanese comics, I personally can kind of divide those into three phases there. Like there's that initial like kind of first wave guys like Osamu Tezuka that did Astro Boy. He had a real strong like Disney influence. Like if you see that, like he is extremely like Astro Boy looks like I have a giant Astro Boy statue up like I can't even show it to you, but
I know you do actually.
He has a very Mickey Mouse style, expressive face, and that was, he's the focus of the thing.
Yeah.
But that was the initial phase, and then you had the second phase of guys like Matsumoto and like this, and who is Shiro, the guy that did Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah. God, I know exactly.
Masamune Shiro, I think is his name.
Yeah, Masamune Shiro. Yes. Shiro has a very, you can always tell it's his art.
Right. Yeah. But he gets really into drawing, like things. And the guy that did Akira, Kazuhiro Otomo, but they will zoom in and, draw like a boombox or a tape deck or a television or something like that and pay a lot of attention to detail on that. And and I think the reason for that is those guys probably trained as like industrial illustrators or graphic illustrators, and so they just like to draw that kind of stuff. But the next generation of that were guys that learned to draw from the previous generation of anime. And so now you're like a generation removed where they're trying to emulate the tropes of anime at that point. And it's like American comics where, when guys like Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld came out, those guys learned to draw from comics as opposed to guys like, the generation before them of like Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. and those guys who learned to draw from life and wanted to draw, things from life in a comic context.
Yeah, you could tell they use anatomic models to create their characters.
Right. But the other connection to this, to me from I've always been big into aviation since I was a kid. I love airplanes, building model airplanes, that sort of thing. And I lived with my grandfather for a few years when I was younger, and he was an airplane mechanic actually in the Navy for like 30 years. And from World War II all the way through to Vietnam, and knew a ton of this stuff. He could just, I could watch like Tora with him, and he could be like, "Oh, that's an F4U Corsair," and break it down and be like, "Well, that plane's kind of a pain because you have to do this to work on this part," and and he could do that with like everything he would see. He'd be like, "Oh, an F-80 Crusader," like, "Oh, let me tell you about that plane. I used to work on that when I was in the Shangri-La," and like I love that. I love that kind of stuff, and
that's super cool.
He and I. When I was a kid, a lot of times where we lived for a while, there's a really nice naval aviation museum, and he would go and just give me breakdowns of these planes and all this stuff. So yeah, that's cool. But
I can see why you like this so much. I can see why you like this so much.
It appealed to me straight out of the gate, and but the impact of this to me also was like as I've said before, I'm a big tabletop game guy. And especially was when I got into this, I was a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, Marvel superheroes, and that kind of thing. And when I read this, I obsessively just read those first two or three issues, and I designed from the ground up a role-playing game based on this, with the whole system of like buying planes and plane parts and bounties and stuff. And my friends and I played that for a long time, and I wish I still had those notes. It'd be pretty cool. But yeah. But anyway, today we're covering the first part of a 3-part OVA series. This was directed by Hisayuki Toriyumi. He worked for Tatsunoko Productions for a long time. Directed some episodes of Speed Racer and Gotcha Man, which you may know as Battle of the Planets or G-Force, and a ton of other stuff. So yeah. We open up with the protagonist. This is Shin Kazuma. He's a real handsome dude with a big mop of light brown hair. He is flying a mission in an F-8E Crusader, the aforementioned plane my grandpa used to work on, ripping into a bunch of tanks. He is coming through and just unloading, strafing these guys, blowing them up. And we find out that the way Area 88 works is that each guy gets paid per kill. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to take out as many tanks as he can, get back home to the base and get a payout. So
yeah, I like this. I like this in certain animes where they throw you in the middle of the story, and then you're like, what's going on here? Because he starts naming off that's going to be 1500, that's going to be this,
right.
And you go back later. And they show you the how he got here, how he was brought into this.
Yeah, they definitely do the. I bet you're wondering how I got here, sort of thing from like How I Met Your Mother or something like that. I like that. So yeah, he gets back to the base. He meets a photographer who I don't think they named him here.
They didn't.
In the comics, he's called Rocky. He's a war correspondent that kind of hops from combat zone to combat zone and covers this stuff. And he's just like, everything is just here at Area 88 just blows him away. He's just completely like in awe of everything.
I like the character actually a lot because of that. He actually he felt like a real character. He didn't feel like a tropey kind of anime character. You kind of like him because even though he butts in the middle of stuff and he gets some places where he kind of oversteps himself. Then he comes back and says, "Look, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was a problem." You kind of like you think he's a typical reporter, photographer guy, but you start to understand the character a little bit. I like that a lot.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's kind in some ways he's kind of the lens here. He's kind of the focalizer because he's the guy from back home. Even though he's supposed to be Japanese, they don't ever really do much of anything to give away his ethnicity, and he's just kind of like he's the visitor here. That's kind of they filter information through him, which gets filtered through to the viewer or to the reader here.
Crazy eyebrows.
He does have crazy eyebrows. There's a lot of crazy eyebrows in this total, but so yeah, he's trying to talk to Shin, but then we see a couple of guys in land or try to land in A4 Skyhawks. One of these guys apparently taking a shot through his canopy and got some glass rattling around on his helmet, and he is a bloody mess. This guy's name is Greg. He's a cool guy because he's in the comics. He's got the big Donkey Kong style mouth with the plus signs for teeth, and I'm always a big fan of that guy. He always has the beard, and it's like it's always like the fat guy from anime. He's always kind of have that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I
can picture it. I can picture it.
Yeah, you know the guy. But yeah, he just gets out and he goes up to the supply clerk, this guy McCoy, this real shady dude named McCoy. Yeah, and he just grabs like a bottle of alcohol and pours it on his head and wraps it up and gets right back. His plane's on fire and he gets back. He takes back off.
I gotta tell you, I also like the attention to detail in Pops. Yeah, the mechanic supply guy. He has the
Did they call him Pops on this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's called McCoy in the in the comics. He's called McCoy. He's probably Pops McCoy, I would imagine. But I didn't catch that they called him Pops.
Yeah, he has a certain. I didn't realize his name. That's why I just call him Pops. He has a certain style to him. He's a real small, kind of shady guy. He has this big nose with a wart on it, and he looks like in anime. Well, actually, in manga, in classic manga, they stylize certain kinds of characteristics in certain ways. You already know he's a little shady. You don't know how to trust him or not because he has a certain look to him. You don't know. So I love that.
Yeah, although now that you're mentioning this, I wonder if this is problematic at all. If they're trying to make him appear sort of Jewish, and since he's like a
that.
Yeah, I'm like, but just now I'm like, I don't know if this is a good thing or not.
Well, it's one of those things you got to remember. Product of the times. Japan is not. I guess they're not. I guess they can be prone to also stereotypes. Let's just say that everyone can be.
I'm just gonna give Shintani the benefit of the doubt here,
Yeah.
and we'll just we'll move on
Yeah.
from there. So yeah. Unfortunately, though, there's another guy here. Another guy, Rex, tries to land his Skyhawk, and he's not so lucky as Greg to just have a bloody head. His front landing gear snaps, and he totally wrecks his plane. So they use this to kind of illustrate more of how Area 88 works, where each guy is responsible for his own repairs and maintenance and ammo and everything here. So this guy gets out, and he's livid because he apparently just bought this plane like a month ago, and now he's like however tens of thousands of dollars down from buying a plane that he just wrecked because it had one bad landing gear.
Yeah, it kind of gives you almost like I guess a foreshadowing of what's going to come later on.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
I gotta tell you.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We go move on to was it Saki Vashtar?
Saki Vashtar, the base commander.
He's the base commander. He's in the royal family of is it Aslan?
Aslan, yeah, which is a fictional Middle Eastern kingdom.
Yes, he's like they're paying these pilots. I like the character design in this also. He has a very, I would say, like quasi evil look. Has the X scar on his forehead, a long dark hair. He has a very classic anime or manga style villain, and I read about him also. He's usually wearing shades because he's got an eye injury in the manga,
right?
But this he does not. But they still give him that. You don't know if you can trust him. He looks kind of evil, but he's not like sneering, like curling his mustache, kind of evil. You just don't know about him. So I like that. Like right off the bat, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, okay, he's possibly an antagonist. But I haven't watched enough of this to really know.
He's also very 70s too. He wears a lot. He always wears bell bottoms in the manga, and he's a very 70s looking dude. Even though I think he's supposed to be Middle Eastern. He just kind of looks like a dude that would have been in like Grand Funk Railroad or something like that. I'm also a big fan of Saki. He's a very cool character, and I don't. You know what? I don't want to give anything.
I'm gonna watch the other two acts of this. So I'd like to hold that for them. So I appreciate that.
He's definitely a very cool and very interesting character.
Also, the Mickey, I like him. Is Mickey supposed to be the American?
Mickey is the American, yes.
The warmonger.
Mickey eventually, I can't remember what plane he initially has, but I think he eventually gets an F-14.
Oh, cool.
Which is very cool. But I think was. Oh no! It would have been around by then. I know that at some point there were a few planes in this that were anachronistic, like they were flying planes that weren't invented yet. Which is it's one of those things that I don't really care about that stuff because I just want to see cool planes when I watch this, and it delivers that a lot. So after this we get a flashback of Shin and his friend Kenzaki, where they're training to be airline pilots for Yamato Airlines. Shin's playing and marry a girl named Ryoko. I think she's just called Yoko in the show. She's Ryoko in the comics. Her father is the CEO of Yamato Airlines, though, so we get this cool sort of Shakespearean sort of thing going on here. But here comes the twist. Here it comes. So Kenzaki and Shin are out one night, and Kenzaki gets Shin super drunk, and then tricks him into signing a contract, which gets revealed is an enlistment form for him to join the Foreign Legion Air Force for Area 88. And the next morning, Shin wakes up on the bar, and dudes from Aslan drag him off.
Yep. And so he gets him to. Does it reveal why his friend got him to join up as like a referral bonus or something? Like if you bring someone in, I'll give you like this much off of your total what you need to do.
It does. Yes, it does get revealed, and we're gonna touch on that here in just a few minutes in this episode, actually.
Cool.
It starts to kind of unfold a little bit.
I really like the three guys to show up from the African nation. They called them the Escape Killers. I looked it up online. Really cool, mysterious group. I like them a lot. They kind of their own little clique. But so it kind of gives an idea of like the internationality of this group. Like the best pilots from all over the world are in this group. I really like that a lot.
You mean the three African pilots that show up? Right?
The escape killers, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, I thought you were talking about the the guys that came and took Shin off initially.
Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead.
Those guys were cool too. Those guys look like Middle Eastern gangsters, and I like
They
I like
do.
those guys. But no, the three the escape killers. Those guys are very cool. So after that flashback, we get photojournalist Rocky. He's kind of finding his way around the base and meeting people. He's looking to try to buy some film though, and so that's when he meets Mickey, and they have to talk for a little bit, and it reveals that he doesn't have any film. And so Mickey asks him about this, and he's all like, Rocky tells him that at some point during the crashes that he left his he left his camera bag in the sun, and it ruined all of his film. So Pops McCoy hooks him up with a bunch of film, the exact film he needed, all of it he needed, and even with extra. Walks off with it, and yeah, man. Pops McCoy reveals that he's the guy that put the camera bag in the sun during the whole thing so that he could sell some film to him. That was great. McCoy rules, man. I love that. I can't remember if they say this in this episode, but in the comics, he says that like a couple of years before that, they had another photojournalist come through, and that guy brought all of his own film, and McCoy thought that he was going to be able to make a bunch of money off of it, so he bought a bunch of photo supplies, but this guy didn't need anything, so he's just been sitting on all this dead stock for 2 plus years, and now he's like, I'm gonna recoup my money from this somehow. So yeah, he intentionally
they didn't say that at all.
This dude's film, yeah, which I thought that was pretty funny.
Fantastic.
Yeah. They reveal a little more of the mechanics of Area 88. It basically, once you enlist, you're there for 3 years, or until you can buy out your contract, which is like $1.5 million, or something like that. And then at this point, when the escape killers show up, up until this point, this had been an almost like frame for frame adaptation of the first issue of the comic until the escape killers show up. Those guys don't show up until a little bit later, but it's really fine though, because the comic tended to be pretty episodic, where a lot of most of them were self-contained. There were some 2 and 3 part ones or whatever, and there was continuity from issue to issue, but mainly each one was each issue was called a mission. It was like mission 4. That was issue 4 of the comic, and it would they would usually get done with that by the end of it. But now this was fine and really cool. I didn't mind that, because those guys showing up are that becomes important. Down the line.
I gotta say though, they had some really nice details in this. Just things that like Shin says, there's one point he's flying and he says, even the sky is painted red today. Little things like that. It gives you what the characters' feelings are about war, and like how everything's just like it's all blood and it's all death. I really like that insight on a character. And Shin is the protagonist essentially of this. So we're looking at, like, you can see his state of mind. He just
that's really important also, because he didn't want to be here in the first place. He wasn't a fighter pilot in the first place, and this isn't the life that he wanted. He wanted to be an airline pilot. He wanted to marry a girl, and he wanted to fly DC-10s or whatever for this girl's dad's airline. Subdivisions. All right, we go to we go to Shin flying a mission by himself. In the middle of this, we get a flashback to him meeting Ryoko and her father. And we flash back to the present, and he just ends up kind of shredding that enemy fighter and winning that dogfight.
He's kind of vicious actually with that.
He is he's a pretty amazing pilot, and he's definitely a scary dude in the air. I really like the animation in the dogfights, and that's a pretty strong contrast to the comics, where a lot of times those fights would be like kind of a close up of one plane, and then just like a black panel with like these like white dots representing like a missile or like gunfire or something like that, and then the next one would just be like an explosion or something like that.
I like the canopy look, like the first person canopy look out. You can see where the fighter in front, he's going after, is lining up in his reticle. That's really
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that a lot. I like getting to see the dash and everything, which was is from what I can remember is a fairly accurate portrayal of that. I've sat in an F8 before, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's pretty accurate from what I can remember. It's been a while, but yeah. We go back to the base, and we get McCoy once again. We get the dude here trying to sell Shin some cheap missiles. He's got some sidewinders. He's trying to cut Shin a deal on, and apparently he's got a. We find out from another pilot named Boris. He's got a rep for selling defective gear. So yeah,
foreshadowing.
which is some which is a little foreshadowing. Yeah. Yeah. So this guy Boris, I don't know a whole lot about this guy Boris. I don't know that they didn't really touch much on him here outside of the fact that he doesn't sleep in the dark. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about him. I don't know much about him here. So yeah, then we go to Saki, giving a briefing for a mission where everyone's going to fly a raid against a surface to air missile base.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very cool scene. It reminds me a lot of the Death Star briefing from A New Hope. I don't know if you got that vibe or not.
It kind of does, yeah. That raiding, like basically like if it was the trench run, it was like along the ground. I feel like was that the fight we're watching at the beginning when it starts, him going after the tanks and stuff. Or is that just another mission?
No, that was just a random sortie that he was flying at the time.
It kind of had the same feel, like going after surface targets, that sort of thing. But I totally got that feel.
Yeah, I thought even you even had those cool little bits of like the pilots talking to each other, and you get the flying against something, that's suicide. You kind of got that on both of them. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that was any way was inspired by Star Wars, since that's from issue 1 of the comics, which would have been from 1979.
Very possible.
But Star Wars was big in Japan at that point, so it would have been pretty fresh in the consciousness at that point. But no, I thought that was really cool. This is kind of a contrast to the comics here, because in the comics, Shin refuses to go on this mission. And he gets fined for that, and but he does it though because they're going to take out these SAM, these surface to air missiles, and they have a fixed bounty per thing that you take out. But he decides to stay at the base. He pays like a $5,000 fine or something like that for disobeying an order. Stays at the base, and while he's gone, enemy fighters attack the base, and he single-handedly takes out the enemy fighters.
Jesus.
And nice. But he makes more money doing that because the bounty for taking out planes is higher than the bounty for taking out fixed targets.
I can see that.
So even paying the fine, he still makes twice what everybody else made on the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So and Mickey, Mickey backs him up on that. So Mickey's like, I hear you're a pretty smart guy, so I'm going to follow your lead. It's like, that's a pretty cool thing. So but then we gets weird, and it gets weird. We get a weirdo anime montage here. We get a weirdo anime montage of all the pilots getting ready to go on this mission, and
I like they have these little cubicles almost for each of the jets where they're fueled, and like it's weird, man, because I don't picture. I guess I picture hangars, and I picture elevators on ships and things like that. I don't picture cubicles. That's essentially what they have. It's kind of like a Top Gun getting ready to take off, fueling it up, putting the missiles on the bottom of the jets, and loading all the machine gun ammo in there.
Yeah, but the song here was real bad though. It was real. It was real like the ending theme to an anime, which I never liked those songs. With like one or two exceptions. What was calling back to my Warhammer game today? At the shop that I was playing at, there was I guess one of the guys that does their online sales has an office next to where the game tables are, and this dude was just blasting the Evangelion soundtrack while he was.
Oh God!
And it was like, I was just like, oh my, this is awful. This is so bad. I like Evangelion just fine, but
but the soundtrack is a little.
Yeah, it's a little sus, and I don't like that style, that J-pop style of music. I like stuff like the stuff from Cowboy Bebop is fine, and when bands like the Pillows and Asian Kung Fu Generation and that kind of Husking Bee, those guys show up in anime. I think that's cool. I don't really like when it's like some like idol singer or whatever. It's not. I mean, it's fine. It's just not really my thing. And it wasn't really my thing here.
I think actually, if it's situational, it can be, it can be great, but it's just on, yeah. By itself, it's a weird juxtaposition. Like listen to it like coming out of someone's office. It's weird.
Yeah, it was real weird. We're having this grim dark battle of futuristic soldiers, and I've got this. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah. But yeah, so the mission gets going, and we get some cool jet fighter combat scenes here. We get bombs dropping, we get some missiles, we get all kinds of stuff. But then we get another little weirdo thing here, where the bad guys push a button and a giant fence comes up. like no, oh no, this is not good.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you explain this, man. Come on, give me something.
So for the first like 10 issues, 10, 15 issues of the comic, it's fairly realistic. It was dogfights and missiles, and everything was real world realistic technology. And then at some point, it started getting a little sci-fi. It's not even that bad and that over the top. Really, it's just it just seems really out of place with everything else that's going on, because you're getting these gritty depictions of like air-to-air combat and air-to-surface combat, and like accurate drawings of tanks and planes and this kind of thing. And then you get some weirdo thing that gets invented here. The more I thought about it, and I'm going to touch on this when we wrap up, but the more I thought about it, the more I got a little more okay with it. But I'll explain that why, because it ties into something else later on. But we'll go. But how did you feel about this?
Okay, look, I like the style of this entire anime. Some things just kind of felt weird. There's just another way it would have just felt weird. But I think it's weird that I didn't mind it so much because of what happened after the battle when they're going back with the three of them, and we had the thing with Boris. Totally took the fence thing that I didn't care anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. And because the whole thing, I mean, I felt you could have. I don't know, man. It really felt like it almost felt, even though this predates it, it almost felt like the Return of the Jedi Death Star battle where the guys were smashing into the force field.
Yeah,
because that's basically what it was. It was a giant force field. But it was a big like metal like girder fin, almost like I beams or whatever, like this kind of thing that just pops up in front of this enemy base, and the guys are crashing into it. And Shin beats it though, because apparently on an F8 Crusader, because he's Shin. For storage, those can fold their wings up like a lot of
that's the whole thing. Like I didn't. Yeah, I think it was like, was it Mickey saying like, I didn't realize you could fold your wings up like that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense now.
Because it was like that you fold it for storage, but he was like, I heard that you can fly with those folded up. That you can fly with this folded. Normally, you don't get enough lift, but I kind of wish my grandpa was still around, because I'm pretty sure he would call some he'd call some shenanigans on this. So I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that you can fold those up while you're in flight. I think you have to like manually undo latches and pull pins and stuff out. It was a little,
and I don't know a lot, but of what I know, those don't just automatically fold up, especially when you're flying. Those have to be lifted up.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know about all this, man. But yeah, like you said, it was fun, because the next scene, just completely, this was super cool.
I like it. Then Boris starts talking about splitting it 2 ways instead of 3 ways. And
because they have a bonus, they have like a $20,000 bonus here. Yeah.
And so the two of them, Shin and Mickey, are like, "What are you talking about, man? Are you double crossing us?" And they're both like getting really pissed off and really, I guess, really, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And like Boris is like, no, guys, because I was a little sloppy. He pulls off his mask, starts coughing up blood, which is rough, because they thought he was double crossing them. He's like, no. I was actually saying that because you can take my cut. And like, oh man, that was kind of rough.
Yeah, he kind of pulls the Obi-Wan Kenobi here, and this is a trope that I absolutely love. I've seen things like this in like Robotech or Macross, and Big Brother, which is my favorite episode of that show. this it's sort of anime storytelling 101, where the old ace pilot dies halfway through the series so that the young pilot can become the new
Yeah.
the new ace. And I adore that trope. I will never hate on that. I think it's super cool, and I think it's pulled off pretty well here. I think that it could have been a little better if you knew Boris a little better. Like you got a couple of minutes with him
Yeah.
earlier, talking to McCoy and Mickey and all that, which was it was fine.
Yeah.
But I think it was, if this was one of those things where like Boris would have been like the base like main guy for like, like if it were a series, and this was like, like 6 episodes into like a 12 episode season,
Mm.
and then at episode 12 or episode 6, he gets shot down, and like Shin's
Yeah.
like, oh well, now I get to be the,
Yeah.
if he had been like a mentor to Shin, I think it would have been a little cooler. But he also kind of confesses here though that Shin's one of the few people that he thought of like actually as a friend, because he didn't want
Mm.
to, he had this whole thing where he didn't really want to make friends when he didn't have emotions or whatever, which was really cool. It was a really cool scene,
Yeah.
despite me just picking out shortcomings of it and how I would have done it. I'm also saying this with like the hindsight of 40 years of of reading, and 20 something years now of like prestige television shows who do this exact sort of thing very well. But
Yeah.
no,
I didn't.
I thought it was great. I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on something you actually brought up already till just now. How he talked about, he always sleeps with the lights on,
Mm-hmm.
and his last thing that he says to Shin is, "Turn my lights off, would you?"
Turn my lights off. Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
"Oh
exactly.
man," it's
Yeah,
like
it was kind of it was pretty rough,
the
man.
closing of an era almost.
Yeah, it
He's like,
was.
I'm gone now. Shut my lights off." That was
Yeah,
really cool.
and yeah, this was a really great scene. This was probably, I mean, to be honest, probably the best scene in this episode, or
Oh
this
yeah,
this part of the OVA. I thought, man, yeah, I love this. After this, we get a scene in Japan, a present day scene in Japan,
Yoko
with
and
Yoko and her father, who's trying to convince her to get married. And it's just, she wants to have a career, her dad wants her to get married, and they kind of leave it at that. She's still kind of pining over Shin being gone, and that's it. But then we switch over, we see Kanzaki again. We
Mhm.
see Kanzaki in the present, who is at this point, he's now a pilot for Yamato Airlines, but he's also trying to take over Yamato Airlines. He's buying stock in Yamato Airlines,
Mhm.
which this I don't really want to give too much away, but this him getting Shin out of the picture it was really part of his plan, as far as this whole takeover thing goes, because more things will kind of fall into place
But
as time goes
yeah,
on here.
you also see a lot of the reason why Shin tries so hard and why he is so. People they're thinking like he shouldn't be out so much like he is, but he can go as much as he wants to. That was kind of the whole thing from Saki. He kind of said like, "Hey, pilots are allowed to go as much as they want to, as many sorties as they want to," and he's devoted. He's racking up his kills, so hey, let him do it. And so
I,
you see why.
Right. Yeah. I think they touched on the fact that, or that someone called Saki out,
Mhm.
saying that he's working Shin too hard. But yeah, but
Yeah,
you're right. Yes, like you said, that you basically you pick your own missions, you pick your own sorties and whatnot, unless they're
this is required.
required. Which and then you get that whole thing where you get that obsession he has uh, with paying his key, because he wants to pay his contract off. He doesn't want to do the 3 years. He wants to be out. He wants to be done, and he wants to leave and go back to Yoko or Yoko. Um, and But then that goes right into the next scene here, where he's flying a sortie, and they reveal that he's only a few $1,000s away from paying his contract, to having $1.5 million and paying his contract off.
Yeah.
And yeah. And this is the mission where he's gonna, he only needs like I think $20,000, but he only needs to shoot down a couple of planes for that. He's engaged with 2 planes, and um, then there is an amazing scene here where he's got what is to be his final target,
Mhm.
his final kill. He's got him lined up. He's got the lock on. Everything's done. He apologizes to the guy.
Oh yeah.
And he makes a promise. This is the last person he's ever gonna kill. He's lined up. He's ready to be done. all he has to do is take this guy out, fly back to Area 88, pay off his contract, and then he's going home to Ryoko. And so he's
Is
got him
that
lined
it?
up. Click. He pulls the trigger on his stick. He's out of ammo. And
I almost feel like
so
he's set up by McCoy actually. Pops was
that's entirely possible
there
because
was there
he
was a
was
scene right
he's a cash
before
cow,
this. Yeah, there's a scene
right?
right before this where he kind of like let on that he's like, oh well, maybe he's almost done with this contract. Maybe I should do something else. He didn't outright say it, but I kind of got that impression like, oh yeah, he set him up to not have enough ammo.
It was implied. It was it
Yeah,
was implied. Yeah, but he was also trying to sell him those Sidewinder missiles
yeah,
that were most likely gonna not work according to
yeah.
Boris. So Shin breaks off and tries to return to base, and that enemy fighter engages him and gets some good shots in on him. And Shin crashes back at the base, and his McCoy tells him straight up, man, your plane's totaled. It's going to cost you
Like half a
a
million.
half a million dollars to buy a new plane. So he was almost at half a million, and he was trying to just get 20,000 more, and it cost him a half a million to get 20,000. So he's
Back to
so
that
yeah,
prop.
he's yeah, exactly. And he throws his helmet down, has a little standoff with the African pilots, and he basically says he's going to desert and walks off. Yeah, that's it for part one. That's it for part one.
Yeah,
So yeah,
dude, yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it. Like, I love the style. The very realistic vehicles. The F8s are just you can almost like you can almost see the sheen of the metal on them. The every pilot had their own kind of call sign on the fins of the stabilizer fins. Excuse me.
yeah.
And
So Shin had the
was the
oh,
unicorn?
he had a
Yeah,
unicorn. He had a real stylized unicorn head on his fin. Yeah.
yeah. I really that was fantastic. Yeah, I really dug it. This is the kind of stuff I love to watch, but it's one of those things where you have to sit down and really. It's almost a lot of people think of animes as like episodes of Pokemon or something. This is like almost like a movie. This is really more like a dramatic action movie. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really not like it's not. I don't. It avoids a lot of anime tropes.
mhm.
I don't think it's from a different era of anime when,
Mhm.
but before there were all these like screaming schoolgirls and all this kind of thing, and like
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing that I don't think that you really see it much anymore, because at some point they I guess they realized that tournament fighting and uh, weirdo school things became the money makers, and
Yeah,
everything
no.
is it tends to be some kind of a variation of that. Not that I mean, there's nothing wrong with shonen anime. It's fine. It's fine. It's just
Magical schoolgirls.
I mean, it's fine. It's a
Yeah.
it's a thing, and I get it. I get that they make a ton of money, but there's something to be said for for telling a story that you could tell anywhere else, just in
Mhm.
the via the medium of anime.
Mhm.
And I really I like a lot, like we said earlier, the 70s and 80s style. Like I really like that, because you didn't, it wasn't just one thing or one type of thing. It was you had mech stuff, you had space opera stuff, you had jet fighter stuff, you had cyberpunk stuff, and it
Mhm.
was and all kind of and all things kind of you had
Yeah.
historical samurai stuff, and it was all it was all kind of kind of all over the place. But yeah, I don't think that I can really put into words how much I love Area 88,
Oh yeah, I can
and
tell.
how much it just means to me, personally. This is the only like I used to be a big comic collector, and I got rid of all of my comics at some point, all my actual like issues of comics.
Mhm.
I hate long boxes. I hate like having issues. I don't like I like trade paperbacks or hardcovers. I got rid of all that, and anything important now I have in trade. I have all the Sandmans and all
Mhm.
the Preachers and Transmetropolitan and Hate, Eight Ball, all the stuff that I love. I have in trade
Mhm.
paperback, and the only thing that I kept was an almost complete run of the Eclipse issues of this.
Very
Like
cool.
I think I'm missing two issues of out of like 47, and
Jeez.
those are the only comic books I own anymore. Um, I think the comics are basically perfect. Even with the weirdo sci-fi kind of stuff, like the defense or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't really find too many flaws with the show so far either. But even with all the cool jet fighter stuff, the whole dichotomy of Shin being a fantastic pilot and this amazing killer, but also hating war and hating killing,
Hmm.
it makes for a really tense internal story with him, where you get that struggle where he's doing this thing so that he can go back home to something that he loves,
Yeah.
but he hates where he is now because this is basically hell for him. Um, but you're interested to see how changed he becomes over the storyline. But the thing with the fence, like I was gonna touch on earlier, the weirdo sci-fi stuff like this, that and that theme, I think ties in a lot to the themes in Metal Gear.
I could see that, I guess.
Because Metal Gear, can kind of start out as like a straight up, so like,
Spy. Yeah.
yeah, spy-fi, sort of, military thing. But then you get into, oh, by the way, there's also a giant robot, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, and this guy has a robot arm in 1972, which is kind of weird. But those themes are also very
Does it?
prominent themes in Metal Gear.
Yeah.
What is a soldier? What is a
Yeah.
soldier's duty and this kind of thing. And but yeah, that kind of gave me a lot to think about, as far as that goes. So yeah, but yeah, that's basically, I like, if I were gonna give this a rating, if I was gonna give this my normal more than meets these guys ratings, I have to go 5 ruined rolls of film out of 5. I cannot, I cannot ding this on anything. I didn't even find any, if any, flaws in the animation.
Hmm.
um
Oh yeah.
I probably would have, and I'm not this. I swear to God, I'm not this guy. I'm not the dude that says this and does this. I probably would have preferred this in Japanese with English subtitles, as
I get
opposed to
that.
watching it in English with Japanese subtitles. Just because I think this is from an era when a lot of companies that were localizing anime were using the same, like, troupe of voice actors, and so you just hear like the dude that did the voices in Akira, like that, like those 5 people you hear in everything. You're just like, oh, that's
Yeah.
that's Canada or Canada, like, whatever you want to call it, like, yeah. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. I already said this much. A, I love the animation style, the stylized people in it. Ryoko had a very Maytel from Galaxy Express 39 look.
She
Um,
did.
Tall, thin, like big eyes with their downturned. They look sad. If you look at her eyes, the big eyelashes, but the eyes on, like, I guess the love interest or the whatever, they always have a downturn on the outside,
Mhm.
and it gives a very sad look. It gives a very melancholic look. I like how you have a it's these things are prevalent in a lot of anime because people like Matsumoto and Shintano, they were the ones to really bring forth these tropes. They were their styles. So now you have, now later on, mangakus and animators they carry on those styles from Matsumoto. And so I like seeing the early renditions of this. And yes, the animation, just because it's an early OVA, it's is a very kind of, sometimes you can see on the edges of the lines are a little dashed. They're not like tight lines. It's fine. And I like the photorealistic almost versions of the jets. Everything is really nice. I love seeing the shell casings fall on the ground as he's flying over. All those little
Yeah.
details are nice. So yeah, honestly, I will give this, and only because I want to see more of it. Maybe I'm gonna go back and refine this later, but I would give this 4.5 faulty sidewinder missiles out of 5 on this. Only because I
Ooh.
think there might be something more, but I may come back and say this is a 5 because I want to see a little story.
Right.
This is like
Yeah.
the New Hope.
It is. It definitely unfolds. But yeah, this was absolutely, this was great.
I like the
I'm
character.
glad I'm glad I got to revisit this because it's something
Yeah,
that I tend to I keep those issues of the comics in a shoebox in my closet, and every now and then when I'm cleaning that out or looking for like a specific pair of sneakers, I'm like,
yeah,
oh, my box of Area 88, and that leads to like an afternoon of me just sitting
yeah.
there and tearing
I
through
don't.
these
Yeah,
comics. So
I don't know what it's like to retain things you love so much. So yeah,
yeah,
that
so
it's definitely cool, man. I appreciate all that kind of stuff, and I appreciate you bringing this to me because, like I said, the Matsumoto style, huge fan.
cool stuff. And strangely, if you're listening out there and you want to check this out, it's actually on Peacock of all things. I was
Yeah,
completely blown away. This is on Peacock. So yeah, very cool. So check it out. And so I think that'll about
yeah.
wrap it up for
For this our personal side
subdivisions.
episode of
Subdivisions.
subdivisions. So
Subdivisions.
I'll say that this week, as of this, we actually passed 1,000 downloads by episode 12. So thank you everyone for that huge I don't know, milestone that I didn't know we get to, but we're gonna I guess record episodes till we got somewhere. So it's really cool to see it happening already. um Big fan of everyone piping up and saying hi, whether you do so on Facebook message boards or Facebook groups, come through the Discord, you just send an email, whatever. Really cool stuff. We I know Ed and I are both very active on the Discord, so if you want to like bring something up to us, ask us questions, throw some things at us, cool, please do it. If you want to email him, edhatestransformers@gmail.com, Morethanmeetstheseguys@gmail.com is me. You can send both of us. I'll put the email in the show notes, of course. And I am really happy you got to check this out this week. So thank you everyone for saying hi and following us. And send if you like the show, send a link to a friend. They may like it too. So you never know. Ed, you think take us out with this week?
I don't have any. I have zero quotes this week. So my only quote
Well,
this
I
week
will.
is just. What do you got?
Well, I will say the great quote of the episode. Even the sky is painted red.
My walls are painted. My walls are painted red also.
My cabinets are painted red. All right, man. Have a
All
great
right.
week.
Next time, guys.
Happy holidays, everyone. Take it easy.
Roll out.